Hey, awesome people, welcome to another episode of So Addicts. Hello, it's so nice to be back. Happy New Year, guys. Jeez, it's been I think 7 to 8 months now. I haven't posted any videos in a while. I missed you guys so much. Like this much. Not even this much. This freaking much. I miss you guys so much. It's definitely been an adjustment for me for the past couple of months. As some of you guys know, I moved from Chicago to California and it's just been really tough balancing my work and also creating content. So of course, something had to give and I haven't really been able to create any videos for you guys, but I'm telling you, I am finally back. And what better way to kick things off by making our own DIY bikini. Now, on average, I probably spend about maybe 20 to 30 or $40 in a bikini sometimes, depending on the brand. But I'm here to tell you guys that you can make your own DIY bikini for probably less than $10 or $15. So I'm super excited to be back. I'm looking forward to interacting with each and every one of you. I missed you guys so much. Thank you so much for sticking to So Addicts and still watching all my videos and still commenting. I was able to see all your comments while I was away, by the way, which I'm going to be replying each and every one of you. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure to hit down that red subscribe button and let's get started with our project. So going into the materials that we need, you want to make sure to get a yard of a 4-way stretch knit fabric that actually stretches in both directions. Then we're also going to get about half a yard in our lining fabric. Now the lining fabric should be the same as the main fabric, but it could be white or something that matches the main fabric. Then of course you need your thread to sew it all together. So getting started, you want to make sure to place your fabric on fold. So I do have my fabric on fold here, and I'm just going to draw a straight line going across. Now this straight line is going to be a baseline to actually start drafting our pattern. So I'm just drawing a nice straight line going across, and now I'm going to measure about 6 inches from that line. So this is going to be how wide the back side of my bikini is going to be. You could always make yours a little smaller if you like. So measure 6 inches on both sides and make sure to draw a straight line going across just like I've done here. So now we're going to figure out how wide we want our back to be. So for our back measurement, we're going to take the overall measurement of your bust, divide that number by 4. Whatever that number is, that's how wide our back is going to be. So mine was about 8.5 inches. So I'm measuring 8.5 inches from our fold, and I have my 2 points. So you want to make sure to just connect these 2 lines together. And now we have our back pattern. Now we're going to add seam allowances. So you want to make sure to add a 1/2 inch seam allowance all around your pattern. Before we add the seam allowance to the top of our back, we're going to make sure to actually lower our back by 1/4 inch. Now this is going to make the back of your bikini hug nicely on your back, so it doesn't create a pucker and the fabric stretches nicely across your back. So make sure to lower that about 1/4 inch, and then you can add your 1/2 inch seam allowance to your back and to your sides. So I'm just throwing a couple of pins on this so I can cut out my back pattern nice and neatly. So now that we're done with the back side of our bikini, we're going to go ahead drafting the front side of our bikini. So as you guys can see, I do have my fabric on fold, and it is much larger because the front is going to require a much larger size of fabric. And I've also drafted a baseline here for us to get started with drafting our pattern. So now we're going to measure about 6 inches down. Now this is how wide the front is going to be, and we're going to add 4 inches to those 6 inches. So we're measuring a total of 10 inches down. So we're just going to go ahead and measure 10 inches across our line there so we can attach these points together. So again, you want to take your ruler and make sure to attach these points together, creating a nice straight line. Now we're moving on to how wide we want our bikini to be. So I actually went ahead and measured about 28 inches here. That's how wide I wanted my bikini to be, but later discovered that it actually was too long. So I reduced it to about 8 inches. So you can make yours about 20 inches at this point, and just make sure to mark those 20 inches points instead of the 28 I'm marking. Or if you do want a long one, you can actually mark the 28 inches. So once you have that, you just want to make sure to square that off, creating a nice rectangle. So now that we have that nice rectangle, we're going to create the shape of our bikini. So to get the shape of our bikini, we're going to actually divide this rectangle in half at the edge of our rectangle. So at this point of the fabric, you want to make sure to divide that line in half. So since we measured down 10 inches, I'm going to be dividing and getting 5 inches. So this 5-inch point is going to be the source of the shape of our bikini, creating this sort of a V-like pattern. So now I'm just going ahead to find the halfway point of both sides of my rectangle, and you want to make sure to connect these 2 points together, again creating somewhat of a V-like pattern. So then you want to make sure to repeat these steps on the other side of your rectangle as well, creating a nice point at the edge of your pattern. So as you can see, I have that nice point created, and now I'm just going ahead to add the 1/2-inch seam allowance all across my front. And of course, you want to make sure to cut that out nice and neatly. After drafting your front, it should look something like this. So then you're going to go ahead and actually place your back pattern on the lining fabric, and then we're going to cut this out from our lining fabric as well. You only want to make sure to cut the back pattern on the lining fabric. So for the next step, we're going to be drafting our bikini bottoms. As you can see, I have my fabric once again on fold, and now you just want to grab any of your favorite bikini bottoms or any underwear that you have that you just like the way they fit. So we're going to grab this, and we're actually going to divide them. As you can see, I'm separating and placing my front pattern on fold. As you guys can see, I'm placing the front sides of my bikini on fold, and this is going to serve as a pattern for us to draft out. So once we have our pattern pinned in place, now we're going to place them on the fabric, which is the folded edge. So we're placing on the fold on our fabric, and now we're just applying a couple of pins around just so the pattern stays nicely in place. So now we're going to go ahead and actually trace out our front pattern. So I'm starting from the bottom, as you guys can see here, and I'm just going to work my way all around the front pattern piece. So you just want to make sure to trace the edges out nicely. Once you get to the top, as you guys can see, the bottom does move. So that's why I said you need to apply some pins just to make sure your bikini is staying nice and in place. So I just went ahead and traced out the sides and also the top. So once you have this traced out, you want to make sure to apply your 1/2-inch seam allowance all around the edges of the front pattern. Then all you want to do is just cut out your pattern nice and neatly. So once this process is completed, we're going to go into drafting the back side of our bikini bottom. The back side is relatively the same as the front side. As you guys can see, I already pinned this to the fold of my fabric, and I'm just going to go ahead and actually start tracing out just like we did for the front. Now for the back, you can actually make yours a little cheekier, or you can make more coverage depending on what kind of bikini style you like, but you can definitely alter the bikini bottom at this stage. So again, I'm just going ahead and tracing all my lines out. As you guys can see, once you've done this, then we're going to take it off and cut it out just like we did for the front pattern, of course with our seam allowance as well. So as you guys can see, this is all we need for our bikini. I have 2 of these cut out in the main fabric of our front, and then you have the back, which is also cut out in the main and the lining. You have the 2 bikini patterns, which are cut out in the main and the lining as well. So now we're going to get started with actually sewing together our front. So for the front, you're going to grab one of the pattern pieces, and we're actually going to cut this in half. Now you don't want to have to worry about applying any 1/2-inch seam allowance. This fabric definitely stretches enough for that. So now we're cutting our front in half, and we're going to attach our back and our front together at the side seams. To attach this together, we're also going to be gathering the front piece to fit the back piece. So you want to make sure to actually gather that side to fit the back piece. So I'm just going to run this on the machine. Now you want to make sure to have a wider stitch length so you can easily gather this. So running this through the machine, and then we're going to take our threads, make sure to separate your two threads together, pick one of the bases, whether the top or the bottom, and now you're just going to pull and actually gather your fabric together. So as you can see, I'm pulling from both sides. Once I've pulled enough to where it's the same size as my back, now we're going to attach our front and our back together at the side seams. So as you guys can see, I've gathered it enough where it's the same length as my back, and now I'm just going to attach these two sides together. So again, you can also put some pins, just make sure that nothing moves around. You want to shift your gathering, making sure that they're evenly distributed across your side seams. So I'm just shifting it around, working it with my fingers, making sure that the gathers are actually evenly distributed across my side seams. And then you also want to make sure to stitch this all the way down. When you're done, it should look something like this. Make sure to press as you keep sewing so everything lays nicely and neat. And you just want to make sure to also attach the other side of your front as well. So once you've attached both sides, your front bikini pattern should be looking like this. I also went ahead and actually did the same thing for my lining pieces as well. And now we're going to attach our main fabric and our lining piece together. So you want to make sure to place these two patterns right sides to right sides. And as you can see, you just want to make sure to pin that. And we're going to be sewing all the way across from one edge to another, leaving a nice about 2-inch hole at the bottom of the bikini. So we're going to sew all the way around, as you guys can see, and we're going to leave a 2 or 3-inch hole so we can flip over our fabric. So this is a very optional step. You can decide to actually add bias tape to the edge of the bust section of your bikini. So I grabbed a 1/2-inch bias tape, and now I'm just actually pinning it to the edge of just the bust section of my bikini. You don't have to do this. This is definitely an optional step, but it does add a little bit of stability and gives the bikini a nice shape. So as you can see, I'm just pinning about maybe a 10-inch bias tape, just going from the side seams all the way to the edge of the bust line, and just pinning that all around. So you want to make sure to pin this on the top of your bikini and also the bottom of your bikini as well. So moving on, we're going to go ahead to actually sew the fabric. Just like I said, we're going to be sewing all around and leaving about a 2 to 3-inch hole at the bottom. So I started from the point of our bikini, and now we're actually just sewing the 1/2-inch seam allowance down. As you can see, when you get to the bias tape section, you want to make sure to just sew right at the edge of that bias tape, still keeping the 1/2-inch seam allowance. And then we're just going to sew it exactly the way I talked about. We're going to go right across at the 1/2-inch seam allowance, going all the way around from one point to another, leaving 2 to 3 inches at the bottom. So after sewing it up, it should look something like this. As you guys can see, sewing all the way around with the 2 to 3-inch hole so we can flip it right sides out. So now we're going to go ahead and actually trim the edge so we have a nice point for our bikini. And you want to make sure to do this on both sides. Now once you've trimmed the edge, we're just going to go ahead and actually turn the right side out. So after turning your fabrics right side out, it should look something like this. You want to make sure to press so your fabric is laying nice and flat, and also so you have a nice point of your bikini. And then we're also going to finish up the bottom of the hole. You can sew this up, or you can stitch this with your hand, or you can even apply glue. I decided to just slip stitch this really quickly so that closes up the hole nice and neatly, and you're actually done with your front. Now moving on to our bottom. So I have my main fabric pieces cut out and also the lining pieces as well. So now we're going to be attaching our main fabric together and the lining piece at the bottom of the bikini. So you want to make sure to attach these two pieces separately. So I went ahead and sewed this on the sewing machine, and then we're also going to attach the sides of our bikinis together. Again, you want to make sure to do these two pieces separately. So I'm attaching the sides of the main fabric of our bikini, and I'm also going to be doing the same for the lining fabric as well. So once you have this sewn on the sewing machine, now we're going to actually turn our main fabric to the right side. You're going to leave your lining on the wrong side. So now, as you can see, you just want to make sure to put the main fabric into the lining. The right side of our main fabric is touching the right side of your lining. So now we're going to go ahead and actually sew down only one leg of our bikini. So you want to only sew just one leg hole of the bikini on the sewing machine. So after sewing one side of the bikini bottom, it should look something like this. And I do encourage you guys to actually double stitch just to give your bikini bottom that extra durability like I've done here. So after sewing just that one leg hole, we're going to go ahead and actually sew the second one. So you want to make sure to actually flip your bikini to the right side, making sure the main fabric is facing you. Now we're going to go ahead and actually go to the sides of the bikini and turn it over, as you guys can see, where the right side of my main fabric is also touching the right side of my lining, and I'm just going ahead and pinning those two edges down. Now we're going to make sure to pin all across that leg bottom. So I'm going ahead and, as you can see, making sure that the right side of my main fabric is touching the right side of my lining fabric, and I'm just going to pin that all across and sew that on the sewing machine. So after sewing on the sewing machine, your bikini bottom should be looking like this. Now, finishing up the last process of the bikini, you want to make sure to finish the edge of the bikini. Now, you can finish this up in a number of ways. You can just fold this like I'm doing here and just make sure to top stitch that on the sewing machine, or you can fold over like I'm doing here and grab your fabric on the inside. Again, the main fabric touching the right side of the lining and pinning all around. The only thing with this method is you do have to leave about an inch hole so you can flip your bikini to the right side over again. So you can use this method, or if you do have a serger, you can just go right ahead and serge all around and then just fold your seam allowance and just top stitch. So because I have a serger, I actually went ahead and serged mine and just top stitched it, as you guys can see. Once you have that completed, you have a well-made bikini bottom, a bikini top, and the perfect bikini set. That is the end of this tutorial. It is so good to be back. Thank you so much for everyone that reached out to me while I was away. I'm so glad to be back. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a big thumbs up. If you have any questions for me about the materials I used, or you just want to say hi, please make sure to scroll down and leave me a couple of words in the comments. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, I'm not really sure what you're waiting for. Make sure to scroll down and hit that red subscribe button so you can be part of the Addicts family, and I hope to see you here next week.